And it was just, you never want to see somebody going through, such terrible experiences. But when you do see someone that you can resonate with, you go, oh, so it's not like you're happy for them that they're going
Yeah,
through that. It
no,
just,
no,
it helps
definitely.
you with your own.
Yeah.
Gosh,
And I know I felt the same way when I saw other women going through it. I'm like, oh God, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. But I'm
yeah.
kind of like, I'm so relieved that it isn't just me and I'm not on my own.
Perimenopause journey is so super hard to be diagnosed with because,
Mm.
as it was also to me, there's not really much they can do in terms of they can do blood tests if you're sort of in sort of
Yeah.
menopause, etc. But it really is just a combination of lots of symptoms that all sort of come at the one time or sort of gradual build up as opposed to isolated things that then they can maybe start taking seriously. But in my position, being, in sort of mid 30s, I was literally laughed at and in
Yeah.
terms of don't be daft. Um, which was okay, if I am not in perimenopause and here is my list of symptoms, and literally this is the list of symptoms that I eventually emailed my GP about to say this is what I'm going through,
Mm.
all of this together. So if I am not perimenopausal, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I ill? It's much rather you told me you're going
Mhm.
through perimenopause than been sitting going, oh my gosh, I am actually going crazy. I
Yeah.
am awful at life. I can't seem to cope. Every time you posted something, I was like, tick, tick, that's me.
The fear about what is wrong with me. I know. Okay, so they've told me that my bloods are normal, that I'm not perimenopause. So now I'm really scared
Yeah.
because what is causing this? And so there's a fear that doesn't need to be there, which is really sad.
You do that and your bloods are fine. Okay, so let's check your thyroid.
Yeah.
Let's check for cancers. Let's check for this. And that's not it's a very long-winded process. So then
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah. Yeah.
sudden, you're 6 months down the line, 7 months down the line, and you're really snowballing.
Yeah.
And that's what I really struggled with. I just find it so nice. The minute I've started speaking about perimenopause, like the messages that I've been getting,
Hmm.
the DM just going, I would never have guessed that from you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
seem to have your
Yeah.
together, but really behind closed doors, oh my gosh, and I can share my experience and let everyone know that they're
Yeah.
not going crazy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Mine is different to yours, obviously, because so I walked into my doctor's surgery at the age of 41, feeling like with this overwhelm and just really struggling with like my mental health and not being able to function like
Yeah.
I was, and it was kind of like brushed off, and I was given antidepressants, which I took because I just would have taken anything at that point, just to get some like respite. And I've got children who were like at school, and said there was lots of things that could cause overwhelm. Um, but it was 4 years later that it was recognised that my
Wow.
symptoms of perimenopause. So I walked into the doctor's surgery at the age of like 41, feeling overwhelmed. And I'd already started to have irregular periods. I'd already started to struggle with my sleep. I had headaches. Um, and then, so I went with the overwhelm. I'd mentioned different things. I'd noticed my weight, so I'd noticed that normally what would enable me to lose weight. So I was like, if you're going on your holiday, so you're
Yeah.
going on your holiday, and just like the minute I hit 40, it was like, okay, I'm going on holiday. So a couple of weeks before, I like, cut the carbs and all that kind of stuff, and then half a pound, and half a pound, half a stone, gone.
Ah,
No, that wasn't happening. I was like, oh
really?
my God. Yeah, no. So I started, that was like a signal. Um, so I've got all these other little things going, and then my bleeding went from being sporadic to horrific. It's really, really bad. Um, and so I'm talking to them. I'm having my antidepressants increased because they don't seem to be like doing what they need to do. So they're being gradually increased. And then I've got all this other stuff going on. And then I go to them with the bleeding, and it's literally like textbook. It's textbook of all of the symptoms.
Yeah.
And yet when I said I'm perimenopausal, they said, no, you're too young.
Yeah.
And I had the Marina coil fitted, which I mean, even that, I wasn't offered it. Nobody offered me a solution for my bleeding,
Oh,
really.
really?
Like they were giving.
So you had to ask for that too?
So I went to them
Okay.
and said, I didn't ask for the marina coil because I didn't. I mean, I think I mentioned to you previously. The irony was is that I had the copper coil fitted after having Louis. So at 37, I had the copper coil fitted because I didn't want to mess about my hormones.
How ironic.
I know the irony. And so I suddenly like was sat with my mum, and we were in Birmingham in Selfridges having a lovely day, but I was bleeding. I was having a hot
Yeah,
flush at the time. I
gosh.
was like, I was like, is it a bit warm in here? And she's like, no.
Just you.
Yeah, I know. And I was like 43 or something at this point. So, and I said, oh, do you know what? Actually, the copper coil can increase your bleeding. So it might not solve it, but if I have that removed and look at an alternative, at least I might not be as bad, because I was bleeding for like 4 to 6 weeks at
Yeah.
a time and really heavily. So I approached the doctors and they said, oh, yeah, we could do that. There's no proactivity, is there really? It's such a shame. They're good people, I know they are, but um, so they said, yeah, okay, suggested the Marina coil, which I'd never wanted because I'd heard about weight gain on those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Ugh." But um, I did it because I was like, oh, you know what, let's just go for it. And the great thing with that was that it did solve it. So that did solve my
Okay.
bleeding. But then the weight gain did then pile on.
So is that
Like
when you started noticing a difference in sort of your body and
I,
your
I'd
weight increase?
already like started to increase, and
Okay.
like I say, before a holiday I wasn't losing it. So what would normally work to lose the weight wasn't working, but the weight after the Marina coil there did seem to be like an escalation at that point, which is not surprising. And it is like quite common, I think, with things like that. You know, you can have it with the contraceptive pill, can't you, that you weight gain? And I know people who've had the injection before. I know a few people who've had the injection, and that's massively like, because it's hormonal, you know, it's impacting your weight.
And if you've got an imbalance anyway, there's going to be a trigger of something, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. So I had the Marina coil fitted, and still then on antidepressants, still too young to be perimenopausal. And it wasn't until the February, March, 3 years ago. So I turned 45 in the September, and I was honest, I was literally, like I said, I had a breakdown. It was just horrific. I was so over, the weight was like nothing I'd ever known in my life. I'd never been that heavy ever. Like, even pregnant.
Oh gosh, bless you.
like,
No.
oh, definitely not immediately afterwards. So obviously the weight of the baby maybe, but straight afterwards, like I was never ever that weight. And so, you know, and so you're so low.
Yeah.
It's so many different things because you can't function, you don't look the same way, your body, I got no energy, like no I had no motivation to exercise. I love exercise, I've always done exercise. I just couldn't face it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a laziness, it was just
Exhaustion?
exhaustion, no
Yeah.
stamina. Like I could do it, I'd ache as well, so it really made me ache because of obviously all the aching joints. And so I was just a catalogue of symptoms. And so when I um when I had the breakdown, somebody said to me, it was a school mum said to me, Mel, you've mentioned before you're perimenopausal. I think I'm looking at HRT at the moment. I think that might be, we're at the same surgery. I think that might be something that is suitable for you. So I was like, okay. So I immediately rang the doctor because at that point in time, I was looking to switch to a different antidepressant.
Okay.
So I'd have tried, I was like, what can I do? Now, and this is what's so frustrating. I'd been to them with all of these different things. I had all of these different symptoms. I had swelling in my hands. So my hands were swelling up, and I was supposed to be going for tests for that.
Gosh.
But because COVID, I'd not been able to. Yeah, just my medical records were just perimenopause, literally like big stamp on it. Um, and I said, oh, I think I need to look at HRT rather than switching antidepressants. And he said, oh, yeah, you're 45.
So that's a magic number, isn't it? To
It is
get it. Yeah.
on nice guidelines. There is the age of 45, because what it basically says is after 45, if you have perimenopause symptoms, then you don't need a blood test or anything, because it's kind of likely.
Yeah.
Um, but the amount of women who still over age of 45 are still challenged and who are still told, no, you're too young, and there's no reference to the NICE guidelines or anything like that. But so yeah, so that was that. But this is where, oh God, I will get emotional, because I think it was 4 years. I was 41 when I walked into that doctor's surgery. I spent 4 years
Yeah.
struggling, and I'd already got the Marina coil for my progesterone. So I had the estrogel, and within a week, it was like this darkness lifting.
Oh my gosh.
Upset, and you know why I get upset? I get upset because I just think 4 years, and it didn't need to be that. It's so
Yeah.
unnecessary for these women to be struggling, like yourself. It is so unnecessary for women to be struggling like they are, because and it's not this. I'm not saying it's like a cure-all, not by any stretch of the imagination. I know there's women that start on HRT and they have to go through trying loads of different ones, and for some they can't use HRT, obviously. And then there's other people that try it, and it doesn't. It's not 100%, obviously, but it's just the offer, you know. So for however many women who are like me, that it can give that relief, that immediate, like it was immediate. Like
Yeah.
a week is just like insane, within weeks, within months, I was that this whole it was lifted.
Yeah.
It was just
You don't want anyone to struggle with that. We're all gonna have to go through it as females at some point.
yeah,
Some people might sail through it,
yeah.
and not really have any issues with that. Um, and they might not need medical intervention, but from a social element, I think it's wonderful to have that support, because so many, because it's very much can be anxiety dominated,
Mm,
you think you're losing the plot. You
yeah.
genuinely
Oh yeah.
do. And
So long.
just having someone giving you that justification and reassurance, saying
Mm,
this is normal, not that that is normal, but just to
yeah.
normalize
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
so important. And that's
Yeah.
what you did
It
for
is.
me.
Yeah.
For
Well,
2 years, it was just over 2 years I was following you. I was like, wow.
it's
Um,
hope, isn't
yeah,
it? I think the most important thing in life is hope,
yeah,
because I think you can get through anything if you can think to yourself, there's a hope, and there's a potential future here that's different and that doesn't feel like it does right now. And I guess that where I was in that February, March, was I didn't have any hope, because I, I was increasing my antidepressants. The doctors didn't seem to have any idea what was going on.
yeah.
I was Googling mental hospitals, like saying to them, I think I need to go into a
Gosh,
mental hospital. Like, I, I,
really? My
I
God,
genuinely did. I sat and Googled and said, there's somewhere in Derby.
really?
I think, yeah, I think I may need, because I couldn't see a way forward.
Hmm.
And that was what was really scary. And that's what's so upsetting, is that I I had felt like my family would be better off without me.
Oh God,
I genuinely said, like, it's how I felt. I felt like this, oh God, what's the word? Liability. I was
really?
this I was in the house. and you know, I was cumbersome, like just an extra body that was like just not adding anything and just wasn't doing what was needed from me. Like as a mum, I knew what I needed to do and what I wanted to do,
Yep.
and I wasn't doing that. I couldn't even, I'd just stand there and look at the fridge and be like, don't even know what do I get out of the freezer to even cook. And I love cooking at home, like I love healthy eating, I love cooking the boys homemade foods, and don't get me wrong, I love chucking a pizza in every so often, but that was all the time. I just couldn't. It wasn't even like a laziness or anything like that. I could not see how to do it. I couldn't even think, like, how do I even put that together any
Yeah.
longer? How do those ingredients work together to make a meal? It was that, like the
Was
fog,
it
the
just like
brain fog
yeah.
was so bad. Yeah, I couldn't even think about what foods would, like, what do they like? What do they eat?
Yeah, gosh. And the brain fog is, it can be so debilitating at
Mm.
times, in terms of, from from my experience, doing presentations and stuff, and there's nothing worse than being up and then going,
Mm.
forgot what I was saying, genuinely forgot what I was
Yeah,
saying, or I'll
yeah,
stumble over words
yeah,
to try and be quicker.
yeah.
And in fact, it happened to me in a meeting recently where I stumbled over words, and the phrase that I said was so rude. I was genuinely, oh gosh, that's what it sounded like. And luckily, I knew the clients, but I was like, gosh, and then you get anxious, and then you get, oh, and that sets the tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've not cured yourself obviously, but you've taken all of your experience and put such a positive impact in it. How have you done that?
Oh goodness. Well, it was, I've worked for my social media for
Yeah.
11 years now. So, and I'd started to do TikToks during like lockdown for my business, for the fun, for our business.
Yeah.
And I'd always shared different things. And so I just started to share it. Like I was like, oh, this is what I've experienced, and just did videos, and then there's this overwhelming amount of women saying, and me, and me, and me. Oh my God, that's how I feel. And you're getting out of that, that
Yeah.
hope. It was that hope. And I guess, and me and my mum have spoken about this, and I think it was such an awful thing to go through, but I just think, well, if it can help someone else not go through it, then what I went through wasn't in vain. It can feel hard. It can feel like 4 years, like 4 years of not being able to function, my career being like not where I was. It wasn't the person. I wasn't the person. And as
Yeah, and it's really difficult to sort of continue to compose yourself doing that,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, and you just feel like a bumbling idiot. And there's lots of men out there that don't need any excuse to put that label on us, So I am a really positive person. I always like to look at the positive, and I wasn't positive then. It was like I just couldn't see a way forward. And I guess just enabling other people and knowing that you can give that hope and knowing that you can just shine a light, and I guess I followed people, and I saw them, and I saw like what they were talking about and how they were coming out the other side of it, and that gave me hope. So
Yeah.
I just think it's like paying it forward, isn't it, all the time?
That's such a nice way to do it. Someone just helped you, so you're going to help the next
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
So, you helped me,
yeah,
absolutely. So, and it's just that sort of continued support until you build up such a good support network. Because so many people, um, obviously, the Lancet, the Professor Martha Hickley has sort of had her say on menopause, and something that really stuck out to me is that the perception of when women say they've hit perimenopause or going through menopause, instantly it's a case of that's them on the decay and decline. That's what was said, yeah. And that's not the
yes.
case. We're sort of put in this box, we're past it, we're really going down the hill. but
Yes.
that's not, we're not just
No.
our we're lacking a hormone. We need that boost, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
so much more to us than
Mm.
this estrogen starved woman. That's what
Yeah.
we, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Very frequently, because we've kind of like gone, right, well, we know what we like, we know what we're good
yeah.
at, we've built up by our 30s this like, these are our strengths, and so often women are hitting career highs. That was the case for
Mhm.
me. I mean, obviously, we always are too hard on our bodies and everything, but you've kind of gone, that fashion trend there doesn't suit me. And I'm a little bit more like, this is who I am. This is what I enjoy doing. And you're in this like little groove.
Yeah.
And then it's so unfair. It's like so cruel that you're in this groove going along, like finding yourself. And then boom, it's like it just tries and snatches it all away from you. And what I love now is that having come through the other side of that, and not completely, it's an evolving feast. But now I go, oh my God, my capabilities and the future and,
It's your
you
approach to
know,
managing it,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yes. And I guess now my view on midlife is very different, and I make sure that I follow women in there. I'm 48, so, I'm 49 this year, so I'm 50 next year. So I can officially say I'm 50 next year, which is the most craziest thing in the world. And I'm sure I'm supposed to be an adult and grown up by now. But I make sure I follow like women who are in their 50s, and I've got this. We talk about the second spring and all that, and people are like, oh, and it does sound really corny.
People saying that, like that's cringe, isn't it?
It's
But
so cringe. Like, oh yeah, we've gone. We're in this, and a lot of people try that, and that's a positive spin that people put on the menopause. And
yeah,
when you're going through the rough part of it, it is like, it's not nice, and you can feel like just go to that bit really. But
absolutely. Yeah.
um, actually I can achieve more than I've ever achieved.
You do sort of go through this um, sort of really difficult time where you feel very unworthy, very unwomanly,
Yeah,
unsexy,
yeah,
everything. That's genuinely how I
yeah,
felt,
yeah,
and it's just from your career perspective as well. You start losing your confidence, your self-esteem. For me, like my hair was always like like my lion's mane. I love, my
yeah,
hair, and it just started falling out in clumps
mm,
and thinning. I just think, gosh, and that really makes you go, I was so bad at comparing myself to others. I won't be
yes,
able to do that because I'm not as slim. My hair's not as nice. My makeup's not
yeah,
as nice. That's
yeah,
how
yeah,
I viewed that because my body had been changing
mm,
so much, like my skin, my hair. It was such a big thing for me. I sort of zoned in on it as such.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we're so lucky in terms of, yes, nothing's really changed in terms of what women tend to go through because it is a biological change.
yeah,
But where I feel our generation is so lucky is that we've got the platforms to discuss
yeah,
it. You know, I
yes,
can never remember my mum discussing it. I mean, my mum didn't work, so I never really, she would never have been as stressed as what
yes,
I was as such
yeah, yeah,
with, there's
yeah,
four kids in this house, you're running about,
yeah,
myself and my husband working full time. So that's just like an added
yeah.
stress. But I can never remember people talking about it.
No, great grandma was put into an asylum and was given an electric shock treatment, and she knew that about through perimenopause. And it's like, so it's hardly surprising really that we stopped talking about it. I was on the contraceptive pill from the age of 16, so my hormones were really always like, what have we done with that?
Yeah,
Have we put this, you know this fakeness and kind of stuff? And so I don't know whether that has something to do with it with this generation, but I guess what I also know is that it's not a new thing, and it has been around forever. And so there will be things that there will be advances that we can do and hopefully look at to make sure
yeah.
that if there are impacts of those things, we can reduce them. But then by also just, yeah, no, it's not something that's suddenly come along because Davina McCall did a program on it. It's
So many people say, "Oh, you're just jumping on the
yeah, yeah,
bandwagon,
yeah,
the petty
yeah,
bandwagon," and I'm
yeah.
saying this is not really jumping
I know.
on a
Yeah, I
bandwagon.
really wanted to jump on that bandwagon and have
Yeah,
that label attached
I
to me.
really wanted increased
Mm.
UTIs, itchy
Yeah.
skins, headaches, migraines, chin hairs, which, by the
Yes.
way, plucking them, geez. So I keep a pair of tweezers in my car because the car is the best place to get them.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in my driveway, and my poor neighbour caught me plucking my chin hairs. And I've just so I mean all the symptoms, let's face it, they're negative.
Yes.
They're sort of
Yes.
unwanted. Some people might say that bigger boobs is
Yeah.
wanted,
Yes.
but every one of them is not something that I would want. So I'm going through it. It's how I manage that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you had obviously spoken about some products that you had been taking and how
Yes.
you really enjoyed it, and watching that journey and going, right, okay, that is quite something.
Mm.
So tell me
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
about those products.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I don't know. It's like a perfect storm. So I had, obviously, as I mentioned, so in February 2021, I had like I wasn't myself at all.
Mm.
I then started on HRT and started to feel better. Like I say, I mean, I'd researched them and I was like, yeah, they sound okay. Like I honestly just, I don't think I was ever expecting what I actually ended up getting. And
Yeah.
so then what happened was, I was using the products, I was feeling the benefits, and I was sharing them because I researched things, I
Yeah.
could see all of the different ways that they could help. So I was sharing them, and other people were getting like good results from them as well. And then I was, I researched more and more, and I really started to look into it. And I think I was at that point, it was in the September as I'd started the HRT in the April, and so I was really starting to understand what I needed from a perimenopause perspective at
Yeah.
the same time as I was researching what these products were doing. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a bit like a huge coincidence and just
Yeah.
perfect like fit because they just offered so many benefits and they aren't like marketed as perimenopause or anything
Yeah.
like that. They're suitable for anybody. Um, but so many of the benefits were exactly what I needed and what other
Yeah.
people were looking for as well. And so, yeah, it kind of was an accident, like the products were so well suited.
Yeah.
I cannot take credit for the fact that I went out and researched and looked for products that were specifically going to help around perimenopause because that didn't happen. Um, but I think that's like I'm always like I say I'm always raw and I'm always honest about those things because I think it's like yeah I just the more I looked into it and the more I understood what my body needed and what they offered
Yeah.
and I just got more and more excited by that because and then I was sharing those and people were using them and yeah and it just escalated to the point where I was like well yeah these really can help
Yeah.
people and I am always super transparent about the fact that obviously um, I am on HRT, and so a lot of people, um, from like the weight loss perspective and everything, from how it's helped me with like my energy and things like that. They were gaps that weren't being filled necessarily with the HRT. But for me personally, I was still missing the energy. I still, even with testosterone, I was still achy a bit. I was still didn't have the energy. And this was after a good period of time. So it wasn't like I was expecting a miracle after a week or
Yeah.
something. So, um, and I guess what I realized is that, and what most people realize is that, one, it's not one size fits all, but it's also like, you know you pick little bits from different areas like there's some things that like medication is great for like and there's
Yeah.
other things that adding in your vitamins and minerals and your nutrition are essential for. And so what happened was it kind of got to this really lovely balance of where
Yeah.
the HRT was where I was myself again, and then the products came along and just they really do just, I guess, help your body just work really well. Like, you know, they give the body the nutrients that it needs to do what it needs to do. And when you've
It makes such a difference. I was reasonably cynical,
yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
that's why it probably took about a year sort of watching, and I thought, gosh,
God,
nothing's really sort of, well, when I say changed, you had changed so much, but the products that you were taking hadn't changed. I thought,
yeah, yeah,
okay, and that's obviously when I contacted you. I was like, tell me
yeah.
about sort of miracle stuff.
Yeah, there are certain things that you can feel the benefits of straight away.
Yeah,
But with regards to the transformation in my weight, and this is like something that is I've always wanted like healthy and sustainable weight
yeah,
loss and weight management. It wasn't like lost 5 stone in like a week, or that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. It
yeah.
was I didn't have to make huge changes. So I always try and eat healthy. Like I want to make sure that I get my protein and my fiber. I like to do things with the boys. If we have a takeaway on a Friday night, I don't want to be that mum that's like, oh, I'll have a salad when, they're out at dinner and stuff, and not that I want to eat badly all the time, but I just want to be that
You
person
want
in
to
the
join
family.
in as
Yeah,
well,
I
and
just want to
sort of,
join in and just
yeah,
and show, and I guess and with it, have that. It's an example for them as well, isn't it? It is good, healthy food. I'm not a fan of ultra processed and all that kind of stuff. They've never had like microwave meals, and don't get me wrong, yeah, like I say, I'll stick a pizza and all that kind of stuff, but I really try and work on good nutrition. It's really important that you can have something that fits into your life really easily,
yeah,
and that you don't then have to be like really boring, I guess. I'm not saying do you know what I mean? Like, I like to have fun and go
yeah.
out
But
for dinner
it's
and
everything in moderation, isn't it?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly. So I think it's really important to find products that sort of help with your
yeah.
lifestyle, um,
That
and they're not
enables
meal
you to feel
supplements.
strong.
Yeah,
It is that strength, isn't it? You want to be like fit and healthy. You don't want to be skinny, you want to be strong. You want to be like,
yeah.
this is my body, and this is my body shape, as we've spoken about.
Don't wear me, I wear the clothes. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter if you have
yeah,
to size up, size
yeah,
down, whatever it is.
yeah,
No matter what shop that you go into, it's always going to change. Products, one of the first things that I noticed, I was like, ping! I genuinely felt so good.
yeah,
And the minute you start
yeah,
tackling the fatigue element of it, instead of snowballing negatively, it's such a positive impact because you feel inspired and motivated to go and
yeah,
do something. So, oh my gosh, like
yeah,
I always had such smooth, silky skin. I was always so lucky. It's now very coarse.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, dry.
the
It
physical,
dries. Yeah. Mm.
and at 30, particularly, when I started, like probably about 34, 35, these symptoms, and I'm thinking, what are the next 10, 20 years going to be like if I'm hitting it hard just now? That's the worry for me. I
And
was thinking,
that's the thing. Yeah, and that is the thing, is that it is a huge chunk of time.
yeah,
Like, I was probably, like I say, 37, maybe even earlier. Like, I just had Louis, so I could have had all
yeah,
these different symptoms, no idea, because I was pregnant and like, but you know, sometimes it's and even when you hit menopause, so even when you have that magic thing of I've not had a period for a year, your hormones are still low, so there is still all the symptoms there as well. And so you kind of go, well, actually, I'm mid-30s, because that's kind of where I was as well. And so the rest of my life, this is, and so we have to be able to manage that.
yeah. Women can go through the sort of the perimenopause really quite early. Is young as teenage
Yeah,
years, they can start to experience symptoms. It's just your body going through a journey. But really, you're not in menopause until sort of your your monthly period stop for over a year.
yeah, yeah,
That's when they would
yeah,
class you menopause.
yeah,
But before that, with all these symptoms, it's just sort of the precursor
yeah,
almost to what's
yeah,
to come. And sometimes those precursors are just so confusing
mm,
and often debilitating.
yeah,
That's something that I really found physically and mentally,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I always find it really bizarre how anybody could say that you are too young to be perimenopausal, late 30s, early 40s, when if you were to go for fertility treatment, say you wanted a baby, late 30s, early 40s, and I know from my experience, as I say, I was 37 when I had Louis, that I mean I was a geriatric mum.
Yeah, unbelievable,
And
isn't
this
it?
is the irony. So I had Louis and I was classed as a geriatric pregnant lady. Yet at the same age, I'm too early to be perimenopausal. So they don't add up, do they? Because you're recognizing, and the reason you're classed as a geriatric mum is because it's recognized that, your hormone levels start to
Yeah.
decline, that your estrogen progesterone starts to decline in your 30s, typically. So it's ludicrous to then say you're too young to be perimenopausal. Well, the whole point of perimenopause is that your hormones are starting to fluctuate and decline.
Speaking to a GP and you're basically saying, my literally my anxiety started causing tics. So I was like, it was like a head shake, it was my eyes, it was
Yeah.
awful. And I got put on various things and I was eventually, one GP said to me, look, there's only so much we can do. You need to try and make yourself happy. And I was like, I don't know how to. And then that starts a snowball effect of I cannot deal with life. And then that really does, I'm not a good mom, I'm not a good wife. And you do start beating yourself up. And I just remember thinking, I clearly, because you do tend to take GP's word as
Yeah.
gospel.
Yeah.
Never be as clever as, sort of a GP in their knowledge. So if they're telling me you just need to go and make yourself happy, okay, how do I do this? Because I genuinely do not know where to go here.
Oh,
And
God, honestly, it's just so bad, isn't it, really? Of it isn't their fault because they don't have training on it. They may have a couple of hours training. And that's just insane to think that every single woman goes through it.
yeah,
Like that's 51% of the population go through something, however that impacts them,
yeah,
and they're not trained. It's
absolutely.
absolutely insanity.
And on average, a GP appointment they're only able to accommodate you for 2 to 3 minutes on average. Is
Yeah,
what they want an appointment to last
yeah,
in. I could be there all day. I
yeah.
mean, we've sat and spoken an hour.
But I think it's so frustrating when you go and you've linked the symptoms. And I think this is where I get to is that it's one thing to be like, I can forgive the fact that they didn't see and link everything because, they see so many people and there's so many different things.
Yeah,
But when somebody is saying, I believe I'm perimenopausal, and then they say no, and don't even look into that properly, or don't say, well, what all, balance app, Steve, is a great one. So often we have no idea what all the symptoms
yeah,
are. Like I had a catalogue of symptoms, but I only thought that my missed periods and probably struggling to sleep a little bit and the hot flush. They were the only things I thought were perimenopausal. There was so many other things that were. So, just saying to women, go away and have a little look. Go away and have a little look at what the symptoms are, and we'll talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah. Keep a
But to
diary.
dismiss us, that's what's not nice.
Absolutely. You want sort of educated, um, informative details, evidence based. And the more people say, this is what I experienced, the more we normalize the experience. And I
Yeah,
think that is
yeah,
where
yeah.
having chats with people like her.
Don't want to use HRT, and in no way, shape, or form are we saying that these products are going to
Oh
cure
yes.
perimenopause or do any of those things. But a lot of times what can happen is that, like you've already said, you feel you've got that more energy, you know, you can feel it, you feel it in your skin and everything.
Yeah.
So if you are giving yourself a head start with regards to giving yourself a load of goodness and the vitamins and minerals that can help you feel a little bit better,
Yeah.
you know, there are other things that you may need to look at if it's your mood or all those kind of different things, but they definitely can help and
Yeah.
support.
To be able to have had a good chat with Mel. You've really helped change my life anyway, and I hope I can do what you've done for me to other women.
And you will do straight away. You
Yeah.
are, you are, because but somebody's already reached out to you, haven't they, and said, so you are.
Yeah, quite a few people. In fact,
Yeah.
there's genuinely can I only started them was it Saturday,
Yeah.
and I think I've just messaged you constantly going, I cannot believe the difference.
Yeah.
Why I waited a year to even sort of wait to try them. I wish I hadn't because last year was horrendous.
Yeah.
Such a bad
Yeah.
year, and I'm delighted to be able to have this year starting positive.
Yeah, you know what, honestly, we put things off, don't we? We all do
I
it.
know
We all do it. And you know what? The time that you start is the right time to
for
start
you,
it, and that's okay.
absolutely,
But
yeah,
they always say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today, don't they? And you know what, honestly, it is so true that
yeah,
just just literally getting that little
yeah.
boost in.